Hi everyone, it's me Darlene. I am back with row 3 of our Scrappy strip quilt, and I had an idea. We made half square triangles in part 1 for this row, and we ended up with 3 blocks like this. The birds are down here facing up, and then 3 like this. The birds are up here facing up. And I hate to lose a lot of the birds, and I also hate to lose a lot of the height. So instead of trimming these down into smaller squares, we're going to just trim the sides. And what I like is when we put them together, there's nothing to match up because it's automatically not going to match. So we don't have to worry about it. So all I have to do now is, these are 10-inch squares. I have to figure out how much I want to trim. It would have been cool in the way if I would have done a non-directional print, because then we'd have more options. But here's a way to show you guys something we can do with a directional print. So let me figure out how much we need to trim off these squares. And I also have to include the seam allowance for when we join. And I'm going to make it a little bit longer than we need. And then at the end, if it's way too long or whatever, well, we just will trim on the very end like that. In fact, now that I said that, let's just leave the 2 ends not trimmed. That way, if it's too long, when we join to the other rows, we'll know how much to trim off. Oh my goodness, I love that idea. Okay, let me get busy. I think I have it figured out. If you do not have a directional print, and this is facing you as though you are looking at this in front of you, this is the direction. This way. If you don't have a directional print, then just pick the print you like the most, because there's going to be a little bit more of that print in this row than the other print. So just treat your favorite print as a directional print. So we have 3 like this with my birds, and I'm making sure they're all in the right direction as you're looking at it. 3 of them, they're bottom left. These 3, they're on the top right. Oops, there, and up there. I know you can't see everything. We're going to take 2 of them out so we don't screw up and make a mistake. We don't need to cut these. So now we have 2 like this and 2 like this. We're going to stack this and this. Now remember, this is facing you. I'm going to be cutting. I'm going to be turning these so they're now facing me. And this is the stressful part of doing videos like this. I talked you through all these steps, the cutting, the sewing, everything, using the wrong sizes throughout. I did not get it right once. I just recently was doing a lot of math and I got stuck on a number, so I can't use that footage. I can't edit that. I will just talk you through this using the 2 pieces I had you put aside. All right, so let's put these aside now. I was telling you, you have 2 like this, 2 like this. I'm going to put them this way. You can leave them stacked. Now I'm leaving them in your direction, facing you. The birds are in the right direction, going this way. These birds also. Just make sure that you check that you're going to have this stacked. These 2 are going to be the same, and these 2 stacked will be the same, and make sure you're going in the right direction. Okay, on this inside edge where there's purple, you're going to cut 1 1/4 inches, so it'll look more like this. This one, 1 1/4 inches, it'll look more like this. We want to cut the bulk off the side that is not our fancy print that we love so much. Okay? On the fancy print, directional print, or just a print that you like, you're going to take just a 1/2 inch off. 1/2 inch off. Now, these are not perfect because they're half square triangles. We didn't trim them down, so just don't worry about it. You know, put it on a line, cut 1 1/4. Doesn't matter if it's not perfect, because we're just going to be slapping these together. It's a Scrappy quilt, and we're going to have extra wiggle room so that our row is going to be long enough that we're going to be fine. Again, on your directional or your fancy print, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. On this, 1 1/4, 1 1/4. Then you would do that to the other set too. That's when you end up with two things that look like this. Let's get rid of this for now. And now I can start where I was about to leave off. See how it makes a design? And again, I didn't trim tops and bottoms. We don't worry about that. We'll do that later. So now at this point, I'm going to put this and this together. You can see how it's, leaving a little bit more of this print than this, but not by too much. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to the machine and I'm going to sew right there. This is what we have. It's coming out good. I like it, even though I had to go through hell there for a little bit. Okay, on this end, we want this piece, it's our directional, is going to be touching our directional. And we are not going to cut on this end. We're going to leave that alone because that's going to be the end of our row. And we want to leave it long because we're going to have to trim, and we don't know what size we're going to trim it to. So longer is better. We'll trim it when we put our rows together. If you have some rows that are not long enough at the end, you can always add some fabric to the end. It's a Scrappy quilt. We can do whatever we want. So we're just going to trim. This is already trimmed. We're just going to trim this piece 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to sew it there after I trim my 1/2 inch. And then on this side, same thing. We're just going to trim this piece 1/2 inch, our directional print, and then we'll sew it there. So let me get that done. And this is what we have. I'll take some pictures with the handheld in a second. And I like it very much. I didn't trim this end, and I didn't trim this end. But I am going to trim the actual row. And we could have done that in parts, but I'm just going to do it. There's not too many seams in this, so that's fine. I'm just going to lay it flat as it wants to be. And let's see what I can possibly get here out of this. Oh, let's trim it to 9. That way, if any of you are crooked, we can all trim it to 9. So I'm just going to get my cutting mat, and I'm going to fold it like this, and I'm going to trim on one side and make sure I trimmed everything, that I caught it all, and then I'll just measure down to 9 and trim the other side. I actually really like this row. I don't know if it's going to go with the rest of the rows, but I think we're going to have such a mix that it's going to all work. Too much of a mess is a good mess. My row came out to about 46.5 inches long. But you know what? I'm not sure if I cut a 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch because I was screwing up with my numbers. If you have anything between like 43 and 46 or longer is fine because we can trim, then you did it right. So let me grab the other 2 rows just to see what we've got going on. Now remember, this is not the order, and I am going to do some rows with more conservative prints like this too, just to give a nice, a nice mix. And I do expect to be doing some sashing between the rows because we have a lot of seams in some of these, and so I'm just going to do some sashing. Other than that, I'm enjoying this. I didn't enjoy today. But I'm enjoying it. I think the next time we'll make something again a little bit more narrow. We knocked out 2 tall rows, and one is wacky and one is not so wacky, and we have a strip row like this that I absolutely love. Still my favorite row. I loved the process. I loved everything about it. So we'll do a not so tall row next time. And I don't know, we'll come up with something, right? Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back with more soon. Oh, before I forget, because I always do, go check out my scrap packs and all the stuff I have on eBay. Scrap packs would come in very handy for this project and all the projects I'll be doing this year, 2025. And there is a playlist link in the description of this video for this series, so you can get caught up on the previous rows. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be back with more soon. Bye!